Okay, I'm back. So let me continue to show where's it at? Another person in Brazil talking about the Austin Holleman situation. Here we go.
Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and as you know, I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So this is just a quick video that I wanted to put together to share my thoughts on what's going on with this passport bro by the name of Austin Holleman.
And now, because of Austin Holleman, someone said, I think the other Brazil, yes he, that's how I pronounce his name. They have banned passport bros on TikTok. So yeah, Austin Holleman, blew up passport bros to a point where everybody we'll see in the next 6 months or probably to June who gonna be claiming their passport bro and who gonna actually be real. I claimed and stood for passport bros, SYSBM, anyone that is different from any of this. So it's before it got even popular. I was part of the Charles Tyler squad or Charles Tyler era. And that was 2014-13. So way before all this.
Been doing a number of videos as of late on my channel, just talking about the environment in Brazil. When I first discovered this whole thing about passport bros, mostly black men traveling to Brazil in pursuit of, let's be real, some of them are in pursuit of long-term relationships with Brazilian women. Some of them are just down there seeking sexual adventure. I mean, let's just be real. From everything that I've seen, the comments that I've read, the videos that I've heard, you just get the distinct feeling that some of them, the difficulty is that you can't tell who's there for what. The problem for me is that you can't just stereotype all black American men as going to Brazil only interested in sexual tourism, even though I'm acknowledging that does exist. I've known personally myself a number of black Brazilian men who are actually married to Brazilian women. So we can't castigate all black American men as being on sexual tourism, even though that element definitely does exist. There's been a couple of academic articles that's actually come out talking about black American sex tourism in Brazil. It does exist. It's not to say that all passport bros are into sexual tourism. Now, I started making a few videos just approaching this whole topic. The topic of relationships. I made a video recently about the difficulty black Brazilian women have in securing long-term relationships and why that is. I've made videos about why a lot of Brazilian women ask the question, why does the Brazilian woman have a certain image to gringos or foreign men? I've talked about the fact that along with the rise of black identity politics in Brazil, you also have the rise of black feminism. So all of these things are going on at the same time. And I just felt all this time that particularly passport bros were making such a simplistic representation of what they thought of Brazilian women. And I've known a number of Brazilian women over the years who have written their thoughts about how they feel when people stereotype them simply because you put the two words Brazilian and woman together. There's a couple articles I have on my blog that, people have talked about their experiences dealing with African Americans. The image they get, the looks they get when people find out they're Brazilian. And so when I saw Austin Holleman start to make a bunch of these type of videos coming from Brazil, I've said this to a number of my colleagues. I never directly talked about this online, even though recently I saw that O'Shea Duke Jackson, he sampled a bit of my video in his video, in which he also he sampled a bit of another Austin Hollemen video. So both of us were sampled into an O'Shea Duke Jackson video about it. And this is what I've said all along. I'm feeling like, I lived in Brazil for 9 years. I've been traveling back and forth to Brazil for 23 years since September of 2000. Met a lot of people, males and females. It was never my intention to come down there on sexual tourism. I have never participated in sexual tourism. But I got to see all types of people. You can't just stereotype a whole country of women based on the activities of some. Now, let's be clear. There is an element of Brazilian women that freely participates in sexual tourism. I've seen just countless videos. I'm not going to say where I find these videos. Well, I can just say they're on social media, social networks. If you look hard enough, you'll find plenty of Brazilian women who are promoting themselves as being sexually available.
Playing wordscapes only 10 minutes a day sharpens your mind. Do you think you could spell 5 words from just these 5 letters?
Sales as being sexually available. The problem that I have with a lot of the passport bros is that it doesn't seem like they really understand the environment in Brazil today. They don't really understand. I don't think they really understand Brazilian women. I think they're basing what they think they know off a lot of stereotypes. As I said this in one of my previous videos, like, there are a lot of Brazilian women that are pursuing education. There are a lot of them, a lot more that have access.
And that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing right there, right? The anti-passport bros or the anti-passport guys, they say that women are poor over there. They're the ones who saying it. See, it would be smart to take compilations of men that's talking shit about women overseas and just post it and say, this is the people that y'all believe in. And then you just hear them talking shit. Like I said, my editing skills is atrocious. But I have video. I could try to point the videos if they still got them up. They call them the 30 feet bitches. 30 feet this, 30 feet that. They poor, they this, they that. And it's the women saying this stuff that the same women are under Austin Holleman's videos talking down to them. It's the same women who was making these TikToks where Asian chicks, Filipino and every other Asian woman who's supposed to be poor countries, they had to stick up for themselves and be like, yo, we're not like that. We do pursue that. They have an education. There's doctors, there's lawyers, there's people over there that does that. So it's not the fact that it's, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. It means that you just have a higher percentage of, you're bringing a dollar that high value, you bringing a dollar that has more value than their dollar. But it doesn't mean they poor. That's the whole point.
The college education these days, a lot of women are very successful, but then you have women who are trying to get by any means necessary. The question is, which one of these images wins out when we're talking about Brazilian women in general? And this is why I had a problem with passport bros making these type of videos about maybe their few travels to Brazil. Many of us who have lived in Brazil or spent extended periods of time in Brazil looked and we came to the conclusion that a lot of these guys were talking about their experiences based on their visits to Brazil. They go stay a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months, go back to the U.S., and that's it. I could be wrong. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm just saying the comments that I was getting, the comments that they were making in the video, that's the conclusion that I came to. I had one of my friends down in Minas Gerais, and I'm going to interview him one of these days. After he saw a video with 2 Black American men discussing Brazil, he called me up like fuming. He was like, Mark, we have to record a video. These Black American men don't understand ish about Brazilian women. you, a black American who lived here, you need to go online and talk about what Brazilian women are really like, because these passport bros don't get it. So, to be honest with you, I have problems with all sides in this whole debacle. Now, if you haven't heard, I woke up this morning and one of my friends sent me just a bunch of videos, a bunch of text messages, a bunch of screenshots on what was going on with this guy, Austin Hollemen. And apparently what has happened, this whole thing was actually covered on the Mundo Negro website. Mundo Negro is one of the top Black Brazil media websites. And it's a story that's covered there. It's covered in their Instagram page. And I saw the cover picture showed a picture of a woman named Stephanie Ribeiro. Stephanie Ribeiro is a well-known black feminist in Brazil. I remember, she really started blowing up on the internet maybe around 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there. I remember I saw her when she participated in this debate about blackface in Brazil. It was in the...
And that's the key right there that people don't understand. The black women thinking they got a good hit, they're going to stop every black man from traveling so they can go get their foreign overseas dick and have the dumb shit niggas tell us to stay over here while they get to have sex and do all this other stuff and then come over here and pretend like they never had sex or pretend like they are virgins or they celibate. You know how many chicks who lie and say they celibate but they taking trips over the Dominican Republic every weekend? But that's what these people do. They go from one story to the next story. Austin Hollemen made himself a come up. It's the same thing that happened with Quantum TV. And I'm gonna give you an example from that too on Quantum TV and the situation that happened in that
auditorium. I think it was the Itaú Cultural Center on Avenida Paulista. Might have been 2014 or 2015, and she just blew up after that. They had a picture of Stephanie next to Austin Hollemen, and from what I've seen, man, it was just really ugly. A lot of Brazilian women were taking Austin Hollemen's videos and making a case that he's participating in sexual tourism. I don't know Austin Hollemen. I've only watched maybe a few bits and pieces of some of his videos, so I can't say what he's really doing. I can't make any accusations because I don't know what he's doing. I know that of the videos that I have seen, he's made it clear that he's getting to know a lot of Brazilian women. I don't know if that means he's sleeping with all of them. He's just interviewing them. But from the time I started seeing some of his videos, I was like, regardless of whether he's there on sexual tourism or not, it's not a good look. Sexual tourism or not, it's not a good look. Some of the things that he was doing was what I was talking about when I said I get the feeling that a lot of African American men don't really understand the situation there. Now, why I say that I have a problem with the whole situation all the way around is that I see right and wrong in every group here. On the one hand, let's break them down. You got African American men who are going to Brazil truly in pursuit of finding the right woman to have a long-term relationship. I know this for a fact. I know men who have married Brazilian women. There are also African American men who are clearly there on sexual tourism. That cannot be denied either. We just can't generalize to say, well, how many black men down there are on sexual tourism and how many are truly looking for a woman after being frustrated for years in their relationships with, American women, particularly African American women. It's hard to say. The other side that I have a problem with is we know that from the beginning of Passport Bros, African American women have been throwing out mad shade at Passport Bros. In some of the videos that I watched, some of the things that they were saying may have been true. There are other things that are not true. Like when you make the accusation that black men are in Brazil, black American men are in Brazil exploiting underage girls. I see no evidence for that. I don't know. I spoke about this in one of my videos. I don't see any evidence for that. Generally, when I come across pedophilia and sexual tourism or just sex with underage girls in Brazil, it's generally what I see European men doing that. I haven't seen any evidence of African American men doing that. If somebody can prove that, I'd like to know. Otherwise, you're just throwing out, baseless rumors. The other thing I had a problem with African American women is that you have this idea that, okay, you're just going to go down to Brazil and exploit these women who can't fight back, who are poor, who don't have nothing. They're not willing to stand up against you. You know, they're easy pushovers. And I'm like, that's wrong too. As I've said, what evidence do you have of that? And what I've seen in modern day Brazilian women, you got that all wrong. I don't see anything about Brazilian women being pushovers. Matter of fact, the guy who I'm telling you about in Minas Gerais, when he saw that interview between those two passport bros in a video, he was like, Mark, Black American men do not understand women. He says, Brazilian women are mandonas, which means they're bossy. He says Brazilian women are often the ones running the household. They're often the ones who are, they pay the bills, they control the money. So then where do you get the idea that these women are pushovers? Even if you didn't want to call, even if we don't want to just consider the
Now, a lot of people in this comment section are calling the hypocritical stuff out. Even he said it. He's going to make a point in there that those feminists will rock with the Brazilian funk music that degrades women, and they'll rock with it, but they don't want to shut it down. Kind of like the women over here who will degrade in certain culture, certain things, but then they'll go sit back and call somebody misogynistic and all this other stuff.
feminist element there. It's wrong for anybody to believe that Brazilian women are just pushovers. It's particularly if you don't know anything about them. True, you have a lot of traditional women still in Brazil, but in the same way that the environment, the attitude of women these days has changed in the United States, it's changed in Brazil as well. So I'm saying, where you can say, like, yeah, there are some black men going on in Brazil on sexual tourism, you cannot say that all Brazilian women are pushovers. That's where African American women are wrong about this when they're speaking on women that they don't know anything about. You're basing this on just, the stereotype about the Latino woman, which is not necessarily right. But then I have a problem also with what's going on with black women feminists in Brazil. Because my question is the following. A lot of feminists are of the ideology that women should have sexual liberty as men do. They should be able to have as many sexual partners as they want to have without being taxed as being, what they call in Brazil as putas. Whores. Right? So my question is, if you want that sexual liberty and you feel like women should be able to have that liberty, then what is the complaint about sexual tourism? You can't, on the one hand, say women should have sexual liberty and then complain if men are coming down to Brazil to partake in sexual tourism, whether they're paying for sex or they are not. I'm saying, to me, you're trying to play both sides of the fence. It's true, Brazil is a sexual tourism destination. But like I said, the problem with that is you can't play both sides of that fence. There are women all over social networks, Brazilian women, who are making it very clear that they are participating in a lot of casual sex and sex for pay. There's no way to deny that. If you've seen enough of the videos, you can just look at them on TikTok, you can look at them on Instagram. So where does feminism stand on that? Because what I'm saying is I saw an article from a Brazilian feminist a couple weeks ago where she was saying it was something to the degree of the traditional family is oppressive. Then you have the element of funk culture, which people defend in Brazil on the left. Now, people on the conservative side of Brazil have decried funk culture and music as trash. And when you look at the funk that's going on there, when you listen to some of the lyrics, I'm saying, how can we decry sexual tourism on the one hand and the image of Brazilian women, but then at the same time, you're going to protect funk culture and funk music when you see women, Brazilian women doing all these types of twerking type dance moves online, and the lyrics that they make, they're just as foul as any lyric by any American or Brazilian rapper talking about sex. So the way I see this, from what I've seen, it looks like Austin Hollemen has been completely canceled, it looks like. If I'm not mistaken, he shut down his Instagram profile. I think that his Twitter profile has been shut down. It's been blocked. From what I saw recently, they were saying these groups were just like, look, yeah, now let's go after his YouTube channel. So I don't know where that dude is. I don't know if that was his only source of income because he had just dropped everything and moved to Brazil, which I would not have recommended that. I had traveled to Brazil 12 years before I decided to move there. So this is a huge.
And you heard him, right? He was traveling there for 12 years before he decided to move in Brazil. Because moving somewhere is a big fucking decision. He didn't get up one day and was like, oh, I'm going to move to Brazil. That was the mistake that Austin Holleman did. Right? I said this before. The women here have too much power. Nobody tells them no. Nobody tells them what to do. They get to do whatever they want. They say whatever they want. They're online right now talking all this mass stuff. But guess what? You're not allowed to say any of this stuff. Or you say it within the context of something. They can say whatever they want. And that's the big problem. The reason why a lot of men are frustrated in this time period. Because we had to listen to them just talk. All this. Mate, the Brazil dude going to say something right.
That's right now. And what I'm saying is that being stuck between this is like a triangle right here. And I see that all parties have things that are true and they got things that's...
I knew I wanted a business management degree, and CSU Global was 100% online, so that was the perfect fit for me. I got a job at a video game company and even got promoted while I was in school. CSU Global 100% gave me the tools I needed to get into a better position in my career.
Playing Wordscapes only 10 minutes a day sharpens your brain. How many words can you spell from these 5 letters? Wordscapes challenges you to find...
I've heard just, he started just informing me about just certain things that are going on in Brazil and his opinion on them. He's a guy who follows much of the discussion on relationships and red pill content. He talks a lot about what he views as the outcome of like the feminist movement in Brazil. He's talked about how Americans seem to interpret Brazilian women. And so when this whole discussion of passport bros came up, it was something that, even though we hadn't talked about the topic, because of the previous topics we had covered, it was natural that eventually the topic of passport bros would come up. We were on the same page on a lot of topics. Most of the time in the first year that we were, getting to know each other, I told him a lot about what I thought about he knew that, or I told him that much of my content on my blog had to do with, as I say, analyzing Brazil from the perspective of race. And, we agreed on a lot of topics. There were other topics that he couldn't get with, and that's what I say. You don't have to agree on everything. It's just the point that, be respectful about everybody's opinion. If you don't agree on a certain topic, you can beat it up, you can debate it, and if you still don't come to sway one person or the other to come to your side, or they pull you to their side, leave the topic alone, keep it moving. Just, you can continue to revisit these topics, but keep the discussion going. Don't let it get ugly or anything. That's something that I have a problem with what's going on online these days. Just discussions online or personal, face-to-face or debates. Oftentimes it just gets very personal. People start with personal attacks and it just gets out of hand. Certain views that I've had about race in Brazil, obviously he's a Brazilian guy, Black Brazilian. And so, I'll date any type of woman, American males on some YouTube of invisible.
Different caliber of people, from the bottom to up. Of course, I don't have the interest on the highest tier Brazilian people.
Okay, I want to stop the audio right here just to explain. He said he's from a city called Belo Horizonte, which is located in Minas Gerais, which is a state in southeastern Brazil. It's south Bahia, and it's a little bit to the north, if I'm not mistaken, of from the state of Sao Paulo. I've been to Belo Horizonte a number of times. I really love the city. Belo Horizonte is one of those cities where if cities like Sao Paulo or Rio are too big, Minas Gerais, Belo Horizonte is the capital city of Minas Gerais, and it has, if I'm not mistaken, I think between probably about 2.5 million people. Of course, many more if you include the metropolitan area of Belo Horizonte.
Out here with middle class, upper middle class, and poor people. So I think I could add some information that could be valuable to this discussion, or even clarify some things. And I want to start to make a quick disclaimer to your audience. First and foremost, I'm not here promoting anything. I will just explain how these prostitutes, being a very sexual country, the women are easy and sex tourism thing. We don't like this tag on Brazil. We don't like this stuff in Brazil.
Let me interject a few things here.
Yep. You hear from a Brazilian guy saying that he don't like this. They don't like this stuff. They don't like it being promoted like that. And this is the thing about that too. We can't do what black women do to us, or or what other people do to us in this country. Black men, unless we kissing somebody's ass, or we somebody wallet, or we somebody punching bag, or somebody example or whatever, we don't get no respect. And even if we do the right thing, they say, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. But a woman get to have sex with a thug, go to Harvard and get praised for what? Getting pregnant by a thug, going to Harvard, and now we supposed to, every time a woman does something when she has a kid and she overcomes that, we got to throw a parade for her. Every time a woman gets a black woman gets a career or something, we got to throw a parade for her. But when a black man does the same thing without the bullshit, without the redemption story, we get shit. They just say, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. But then when black men have careers and college degrees, they said that don't make you good. But for some reason, they try to point to the women who got college degrees and careers and say they good. And they don't make no distinctions. They, oh yeah, just because you got a career and you got a good job don't mean you a good man. And then when you toss it back to them, they say, no, that don't matter. It's not the same. So you can't talk to people who don't never see any flaws in themselves and don't want to see anything that they do bad, or tell the world that they do anything bad. Because they always try to be the victim, but at the same time being better, trying to be better than everybody else.
If you heard what he said, what he said was, in general, Brazilian men don't care that these guys are coming to Brazil to pick up or talk to, or I don't know, develop relationships or have sexual relations with these Brazilian women, because he's saying he believes that most of these tourists that are coming to Brazil and they're dealing with Brazilian women, they're dealing with what he calls low tier women. I don't know. I think what he means by that is not necessarily the women that have a whole lot going on in their lives per se. He's probably saying not the girls who are in, pursuing bachelor's, master's, and PhDs, not the type of women who come from, say upper crust families or have a lot going on, in terms of their career success or whatever. He's saying that in reality, I know that, I've read some of these things online. There's a lot of talk about this right now, the type of women that, American men are getting with when they come to Brazil. I can't speak for all of them, but I've heard just numerous stories of brothers who I've known from the United States who have gone down to Brazil, and they come back talking about their escapades. And so it just lets me know that they are dealing with a certain class of women in Brazil. I'm not going to mention any Brazilian games, but I know plenty of guys who come back from Brazil. You know, they go there during Carnival.
See? Black men, that's with different types. They all don't. You can go to a country and deal with a middle class chick and be okay. It depends on where you go at. And like I said in my my first video, that there's some women that you can't run through. They got a family. They won't tolerate that shit. And you're gonna have to marry her, or you're gonna get your ass beat, or basically you're gonna be just like Austin Holleman. He went into a conservative area in Brazil and tried to do interview shit. He could have did that in Rio. He could have did that in tourist spaces, but he went into a conservative spot in Brazil and made that mistake.
You know, obviously there's a lot of sex going on during Carnival. They get to know certain people in Brazil that take them.
This is your chance. You keep her alive. Save her, you can save her.
You don't think there's hope?
Okay. They said no photos. Next time I'm on the beach, no photos. I know they're about that life. They're about that life. They're about that life. They're about that life. You can't be grabbing people's cell phones on the beach. That's why they like, oh, no photos. Don't walk around, but I just want you to see the Bomb Beach.
So as you see, there's black men that are in Brazil right now. They're not calling for every black man to be kicked out of Brazil. They want to get Austin Holleman out there because Austin Holleman gives them a bad look. He got subscribers, he got viewers, and they don't want a bad light on their country. But they're not coming after this guy, Philly Don. Look.
So we're going to the blind. It's a nice little area here. All right, guys, we're walking our way over there, and I'm going to walk the whole beach.
See, and he is talking to a girl on camera. They're not coming after Philly Don because he knew what to say and what not to say.
Amsterdam. You got to do that. You got to do that in a large. All of that. See, American women, all encompassing. All encompassing. To go cut all their hair off and look like men. You couldn't tell them nothing. And it was pushed by society. And think about who was still around in the 80s. Gloria Steinem was still around. Gloria Steinem in the 80s. Remember Jenny Jones? Remember Sally Jesse Raphael? Remember all of these shows. Oh, I got the knowledge about these. They went.
Yep. I remember Oprah. I remember they was talking about men. They was talking about black men. And mind you, I was a kid in the 90s. And I'm black. So that did a lot psyche to me, where I'm seeing people talk shit about me before I even became a teenager. And these shows just kept pounding, talking about, oh yeah, you're a rapper, you're a drug dealer, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not like that at all. That's why I was red pill the minute as soon as I got 15 years old, I was red pill. Cause all these fucking shows was just clowning the shit out of black men for no reason. Before I became a man,
from the average of, and Oprah was the catalyst. At first it was like 15 million, 14 million. All of a sudden when they start talking bad about men, particularly some were black men, but overall encompassing men. When they start talking bad about men, all of a sudden their viewership went because women were in the homes, men weren't there. Women were sitting at home all day. They didn't have to go to work then. When they received stuff from the government, they didn't have to go to work then. So they will receive stuff from the government and then stay home and watch these shows all day. So the viewership for these shows, these talk shows talking bad about men, went through the roof all because of women. Just think about this. Think about history. All of these shows did good because of women. And now, don't forget the songs. Don't forget all of the songs back in the day that were uplifting women. Don't forget that. All of the songs, woman power, pushing in, and all of this type of stuff. Women can do anything they want. It was just raining men, and they could sleep with whoever they want. I want you all to think about this. So they have 40 years to talk bad about men on talk shows. 40 years.
I even said more than that because you got documentaries that was made in the 60s. I mean, in the 50s. And like in the 50s and the 40s where they was talking shit about black men and talking shit about men in general. But it was always, it was way back then. It was in the early the 1800s, no, like the 1900s, the beginning of the 1900s. This is the reason why men never actually evolved from the dating traditions. We had to stay with the dating traditions, while the women got to evolve and do anything different, anything but the traditions that was supposed to be in the 1900s, or the 1920s. Like they still expect us to do stuff even though they changed the rules. The courting, the dating, the impressing them, and none of this. In 200 years, has any of them ever came to the table and think, oh, we have to be more aggressive. We got to go talk to the men. We got to go walk up to them. We got to go do this. We got to go do that. Even though quote unquote good women don't take no initiation. They're still sitting around waiting for guys to come to them. But that's the thing. That's why I said, why stay here when other cultures have a better, more thing with the women? When the women want something, they go after it.
To talk bad about men on talk shows and put out the propaganda. Because the men weren't in the homes for the women. And think about it. All the impoverished people were receiving most of the benefits. You like, it couldn't have been that many women. Yes, the hell it was. Yes, the hell it was. So I want you all to I want you all to postulate that in your minds. Just put it there and just think about it. Damn, he's right. Then came the music. Then came the Queen Latifah's out of nowhere. And no knock to her. No knock to her. Then came the rock singers and all of a sudden women power. Think about all the singers that used to go cut all their hair off and look like men. You couldn't tell them nothing. And it was pushed by society. And think about who was still around in the 80s. Gloria Steinem was still around. Gloria Steinem in the 80s was still around. Because they wanted to assassinate the character of men. They wanted to push this to the public. Think about it. We all had to be silent. We couldn't talk like them on national TV. We couldn't talk like them on national TV. They was given a right of way to dog men out on many of these platforms. You went up there and tried to talk. Yeah, Sinead O'Connor. Yes. I want you all to think about this. They had years of programming and prostrating on camera.
And this is the reason why I say I can't really mess with women over here, because they're easily manipulated and easily influenced. You can't influence me. I'm sorry, you can't. You just can't. I got my ways. And I don't watch certain shows. I don't listen to certain music. I don't rock with that shit. But them, they can pretend like they good and they different, but they still listen to the same fucking songs that the other girls listen to. So they already share that hive mind bullshit. So you gotta understand that you can't have a sliver of none of the shit that these women are doing. But they don't, like I said, man, Brazil he a good channel. Now we have cut that down. Now the next video will be is going to expose the people, the women that go overseas, the chicks that exposed is the Brazilian women. You're going to see her, and basically she has a white boy. And basically all the shit that's under his comments.